Thank you for being here. My name is Teran Stallings, and again, welcome on behalf of the Black Man Think Tank. We'd like to, again, thank you guys for taking part in this conversation, and if you don't mind, introducing yourself to the voters. We'll start with you.
Sure. My name is Anna Albi. I'm in my first term on Cincinnati City Council. My focus is gun violence prevention and food access. You can find more on albiforcincinnati.com.
My name's Raffel Prophett, lifelong Cincinnati. I retired from the Cincinnati Fire Department, Reserves, built my home in Cincinnati, raising my three daughters with my wife. My focus is on public safety, affordable housing, and economic opportunities.
Perfect. And with that, we'll dive right in. So our first question is, what is your strategy to ensure that public and private investments don't just reach downtown, but also uplift neighborhoods like Avondale, Bond Hill, and the West End? We'll start with you, Ms. Albi.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I mentioned in my intro, food access has been a passion of mine, and I've really been trying to funnel my energy and resources into specifically our neighborhoods hit hardest by gun violence. So we just launched the Impact Award, which is a big grant we're doing around food access, and where we are going to build urban farms in 8 out of our top 10 neighborhoods for gun violence. I can't rattle them all off on the top of my head, but we're going to do the urban farms plus community hubs. So it's places like East Price Hill, Lower Price Hill, Avondale, Walnut Hills, those neighborhoods. So that's really been my thinking is, hey, let's go to those neighborhoods that we see the community is struggling and focus our resources there first to try to lift them up.
Okay. Same question. Would you like that repeated, or you good?
No, I think I'm good because, and that's really been the what I think has been absent from City Hall, especially the last 25 years, because the focus has been towards Central Business District, OTR. And the reason the reason for that is because we changed from a stronger to a stronger mayor system, as opposed to what we did have was a city council, a city manager, when we were a lot more strategic. But the strategy shifted towards Central Business District and OTR. And so my strategy would be, again, have a plan on how we're going to actually serve the neighborhoods, especially those underserved neighborhoods who have been stagnant for a long time. So we'd have to pull it together by establishing a strategic plan, and that means bringing together our city manager, economic development, to see how we're going to actually move forward to uplift a lot of those neighborhoods, especially those ones who have been stagnant and left behind.
So may I jump in? I just want to be clear for everyone. So our form of government is a city manager form of government. So we actually don't have a strong mayor form of government. In fact, this city council coming in actually took away the pocket veto of the mayor to actually reduce the power the mayor has. So I know that's come up as questions in the community, but I want to make sure it's clear the city manager is our CEO, council is setting the legislative policies.
Stronger mayor. I didn't say strong mayor, stronger mayor. And I think that the evidence bears out that the focus has been on the Central Business District and OTR. The first mayor's focus was on the establishment of 3CDC. The second mayor was on the establishment of the bank. The third mayor was establishment of FC Cincinnati and continuing the advancement of OTR. And that's because of the business community. They are the ones who push for the stronger mayor, and they had tried for years to do it. And that's why we have been less strategic, especially as it involves the rest of the city, the rest of our neighborhoods, not just the underserved, but overall. And that's why we're having problems with a lot of communication and development in the neighborhoods, because the focus has not been for a long time on neighborhoods, but Central Business, OTR. Stronger mayor, not strong mayor.
Perfect. Thank you both for your answers. So our next question, what do you see as the root causes that drive violence in our neighborhoods, and what is your plan to address them? Start with you, Mr. Prophett.
Yeah, so, and I think that we all understand the root causes are these social determinants of crime. And it first starts with good, clean, safe, affordable housing. Studies show that when you have a stable living condition, you are going to be less apt to commit crime. And so then when you start talking about the educational disparities, the health disparities, mental health, a lot of our kids go through PTSD because of the trauma that they experience, and mainly from a lack of quality, affordable housing. So we know what the causes are, but oftentimes we shift our attention to law enforcement. But we have to get at these social determinants of crime.
And the second part of that is, what would you do to plan to address them? So it is to address the social
Be a lot,
determinants.
yeah, that's right. That and being a lot more strategic. One of the initiatives when I was on the fire department that we helped create was the establishment of an initiative to establish a public safety academy in one of the several high schools. Not only would that provide an opportunity for our kids to become cops and firefighters, but actually we were pouring their kids about safety, pouring to the school, back to the neighborhoods. That's a strategic effort in order to make us all safer. We have to be a lot more strategic in doing that. Other opportunities would reestablish the Human Relations Commission, which becomes a bridge between City Hall and those underserved communities. And we would get at those issues in health, crime, education, and economic opportunity. So that's we have to be just a lot more strategic.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Albi, would you like the question
No, I
repeated?
got you. Because this is one of the things I love talking about.
All
Because
right.
anytime I stand up in front of a crowd, I talk about how when we talk community safety, it comes down to, are people being paid enough to afford a roof over their head, fresh food on the table, access to healthcare, and how are we giving kids safe spaces to grow and thrive? So if I break that down, because that's a lot of things, right? So being paid enough, that is good paying jobs. City of Cincinnati invests millions into workforce development and across the board, whether that's supporting Cincinnati Works or the new Building Futures program. That's where we're actually helping underrepresented populations get into the trades and get a good union job, because that is a pathway into the middle class. Roof over their head, housing, as Mr. Prophett mentioned, right? The city of Cincinnati has a whole spectrum of solutions when it comes to housing. I'm really proud that we invest, again, millions. We have over $100 million in the Affordable Housing Leverage Trust Fund to pay for building housing. We are keeping people in their housing by supporting rent access, rent support. If people aren't able to meet for a month, we're able to give them rent support. We're also giving them access to counsel. So if they do end up at the eviction docket, they can have a lawyer with them, which actually makes the process much more equitable and helps them stay in their housing. We're also making it easier to build housing. We did zoning reform, so it's easier to actually build more housing more quickly. And then we have shelter services. So that's the housing front. Food, I talked a little bit about it, but I'm really proud. I've unlocked over $1 million of funding specifically for food access in our neighborhoods hit hardest by gun violence. Healthcare, we eliminated medical debt for 1 in 3 Cincinnatians. So across the city, 1 in 3 Cincinnatians, we wiped out their medical debt, gave them a fresh slate to start from. And then safe spaces, that's where we're investing tons of energy, whether it's through community partners or through our rec centers, to give kids safe spaces and safe adults to be with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you both. Our next question goes a bit deeper and has a broader lens. So when federal agencies like ICE seek cooperation from local police, it can erode trust in black communities. What is your position regarding local cooperation with ICE, and how would you protect civil rights while keeping public safety? Salvi, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so the city of Cincinnati, we do not help ICE in any way. I have had multiple conversations with the manager. We are not offering our police support to support that. They are obviously a federal agency, so that's their remit. I've met with, it's called an alderman in Chicago, but it's a city council member in Chicago, as well as with a group called Local Progress, and my office is currently working on a toolkit to help inform residents of their rights when ICE is here, as well as informing businesses what to do in case of a raid or something like that. So really it's about informing our residents what your rights are, what you should do, and how to stay safe in a situation like this, because what we are seeing in Chicago is horrific. I have family that lives there now. I lived there for a stint in time. The violations of our rights, civil rights, human rights, is totally grotesque and has no place in America.
Thank you. Would you like the question repeated, or?
No, so, obviously Cincinnati is a sanctuary city. Now, when we're talking about the federal authorities coming in and exercising federal law, that there's going to have to be some legal challenges in terms of how they affect, in terms of our city. But the city, I believe our position would not be to separate families, right? If they're requesting some additional resources from the Cincinnati Police Department, my position would be no, that we will not support people separating families. The federal government, whatever they understand what they're charged to be, well, actually, if we think that there's a violation of people's civil rights, then we have to through the city solicitor, whatever legal course that we have to challenge that. But from my perspective, we will not have the Cincinnati Police Department involved with enforcing some federal immigration laws. So, but again, a lot of this is probably going to have to go down to some legal challenges.
Sure. All right. Thank you both. One last question, and a pretty straightforward one. Why should Black Cincinnatians, why should Black Cincinnatians trust you with their vote? And what is your track record of standing with the Black community?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm part of the Black community. I grew up here. I was born in Avondale, grew up in the West End, and moved back to Avondale. Have not left Avondale. I've spent my career the fire department, the military reserves, but in both of those organizations, I was involved in the Cincinnati African American Firefighter Association. In fact, I was a previous president. Also, in terms of the military, the Black Military Officers Association, part of the MLK Coalition, part of the Avondale Community Council, part of the NAACP. I mean, my effort has always been about progressing the African American community because I've seen the disparities. Not only have I benefited personally and my family, but I also seen the disparities, especially from a lot of my friends and family that didn't have somewhat the opportunity that I had. Not to advance, but only small quarters that I see of our society, and when I mean our community, the African American community, benefited from a lot of the opportunities I had. So I believe I have a track record of always looking at the interests of the African American community.
So I'll be same question.
Yeah, I'm going to say the obvious. I'm a white lady, and I realize that, and I know that can come with some distrust sometimes in rooms, especially when I'm walking in to talk about gun violence. But at the end of the day, I show up and I listen, and I've been working in this space and volunteering in this space well before I was on city council. And I'm really grateful for everyone who I partner with, whether that's Mitch Morris, the guys and gals from Brothers Inc., showing up to do this work every day. And the listening part is the important part, right? When you hear something and then following it up with action. So when I heard from Iris Rowley and Z and the collaborative agreement outreach team at the transit centers that these kids were coming through and they were hungry, I said, great, we'll get you $50,000 to feed these kids at the transit centers. So we did that. When I heard from community after community that when I go to talk about gun violence, that kids are hungry. That is the whole reason why I'm focusing on hunger here in City Hall, is because this was something I was hearing from the community over and over again. And frankly, when I got to City Hall, there was no bucket of money where we were feeding people. We're doing great things with housing, we're doing great things with economic development, workforce development. That's great, but we were not focused on hunger. So I'm really proud to have brought that. So that is what I bring to the table, is being a good listener and then following it up with action. And I also just want to say, the work that our collaborative agreement team is doing is so vital. There are people right now who are questioning it and questioning the validity, but I will double down on that work. In fact, I refused to sit for the FOP endorsement because, frankly, the FOP president was going out and saying things about this work that I thought was totally irresponsible. And so that is, I'm committed to the collaborative. I'm committed to focusing on youth outreach and meeting our residents' needs.
All right. That was my final question. I'd like to thank you both again for your time. This has been wonderful. Voters, you got it.